Hi, and welcome to the Audrain Automobile Museum in Newport, Rhode Island. I'd like to thank our friends at the Petersen Museum for leaving sunny Los Angeles and coming here to Rhode Island on this windy, wintry day for this episode of Global Garages. Come on inside and let's take a look around. Hi, I'm Donald Osborne, ASA, automotive historian, writer, appraiser, and CEO of the Audrain Group here in Newport, Rhode Island. I'd like to welcome you once again to the Audrain Automobile Museum and this amazing building in which the gallery is housed. The Audrain Collections consists of about 400 vehicles, approximately 350 cars and about 50 motorcycles. This 7,500 square foot gallery houses rotating exhibitions. We put on 4 shows a year here. And what we want to do here at the Audrain is to show people the range of motor vehicles, how they developed, how they interacted with society, how people connected with them. We love them as kinetic sculpture, but we also use our collection. We ride them, we drive them, we take them on tours and rallies, we take them to shows, we share them with the public, because that's the most important thing, the connection. And it's one of the reasons why I'm here at the Audrain. As we'll see when we tour the collections in storage and take a glance at my collection, you'll see why I connected so much with the collecting ethos of the Audrain organization. The opportunity to actually make my living my passion, is one for which I am incredibly grateful. And this office really reflects a lot of who I am and how I do what I do. It's looking at history, thinking about the things that really connect me with what it is that I do. Really just make my day fly by. This wall, for instance, is a great example. I've got one of my favorite possessions is this wonderful photograph by Denise McCluggage of one of my heroes, Dan Gurney, sitting in a Ferrari, and Phil Hill is translating for him to the Ferrari mechanics. And that's the kind of thing that I absolutely love, the slice of history. And next to it is the launch poster for the Porsche 911. It's just so incredibly elemental. As somebody who trained as an artist and wanted to become a car designer, the graphic and the visual are very important to me. And seeing that poster is just so absolutely wonderful. So you've seen the museum gallery, you've heard a little bit about how I connect with cars. Now, let's go and see some garages. Come on. So now we're backstage here at the Audrain, where you can see a small sampling of the cars from the Audrain collection here at rest. The car that I'm standing next to is one of the key cars in the Audrain collection, a 1907 Renault Type AI 3545 Racer. It has never been restored, it's been refurbished a number of times, and it is an amazing car, even on the road today. As a matter of fact, my friend Jay Leno and I have been driving this car through the streets of Newport, and it's one of the things that really makes living history. I mean, here we are next to a car that's well over 100 years old and still functioning as its makers intended. Another car with racing in its past is this magnificent machine. This is a 1997 Ferrari F310B. This car was driven by Michael Schumacher in practice for the Belgian Grand Prix, and this is, again, one of the most original Ferrari Formula One cars to be in private hands. This also is, on a personal note, One of my favorite periods in Formula One, I really got into Formula One as a fan in the 1980s. This particular car is, I think, at that magic moment where it has the form of a fighter plane, but it still looks like a car. It's a wonderful sculptural shape, and all of the aerodynamic aids, the barge boards and the side pods, have not quite taken over to the extent that they would in just a few years. To be this close to a car driven by the legendary Michael Schumacher is amazing. And one of my all-time favorites in the collection is this 1937 Bentley 4 1/4 open two-seater by the Carlton Carriage Company. The lines are very elegant and very sporty, also very masculine in a way, and it's got lots of decoration, yet it's very elemental. And this car is also a blast to drive. It's easy, it's smooth, it's powerful. This is the kind of car that you can just imagine in the 1930s, climbing into this car in London, driving out to the country for a great weekend, and just having a blast on the way up and on the way back. When I was driving this car, I didn't want to get out of it. If someone were to say to me, okay, Donald, you've got to go to a desert island with great winding roads, of course, and you could take one car, what would it be from the collection? It would probably be this 1939 Alfa Romeo 6C 2500 Sport with a body by Carrozzeria Touring. In fact, it's the actual logo car of the Audrain. You see it in all of our logos, and there's a reason why this car is picked. This car is the absolute quintessence of luxury and sport, and combines the history of one of the greatest marques on the planet, Alfa Romeo. This car is a great example of what this marque had established in top-line racing in the 1930s and now extended into the luxury touring field. This is also an amazing car to drive, and it just absolutely says everything you want a car to say. It says, look at me, it says, drive me, it says, enjoy me. It's absolutely spectacular. We've seen just a few cars from the Audrain collection here in the Audrain Motorsport Garage. Now let's head to another one of our storage facilities to see a few more cars from the Audrain collection and a few of mine. Let's go. So we're here at Audrain Park Place, our concierge car storage facility, where some of the other cars of the Audrain collection are kept, such as these iconic Ferraris, and my own collection as well. I've always been a serial collector, which is to say I've never had lots of cars at one time, but always cars sort of in a rotation. I like to drive my cars, and if you have too many cars, I've found, it's just absolutely impossible to keep them all exercised the way they want to. This is my 2017 Alfa Romeo Giulia TI Sport Q2. This is my everyday driver in California. I traded in a Jaguar sedan for this car, and it really is a dream car. I love everything about it and what it represents in terms of the driving experience. This car is absolutely wonderful, but being here in the Northeast, I thought, you know what? Let's give the Alfa a winter rest. And I got a winter car to drive instead, so that this can relax all winter long and be ready for summer fun drives when it comes. The next car I'm going to look at in my collection is a really special one, and one that means a lot to me. This is a 1987 Fiat Panda 750CL. This is a car that very few people would describe as beautiful, but it has something that I really admire, which is in a utility vehicle, it's a challenge to make something that really works and is fun and entertaining. The design of the car is also quite practical. All of the glass is completely flat, so it's inexpensive to manufacture, and the handling is direct. It is an amazing city car and a car that I've taken on the highway. This is a car that literally brings a smile to my face every time I get into it. And last but not least is this 1953 Jaguar Mark 7. I am the second owner of this 1953 Jaguar, which is astonishing. I bought this car at auction last year from the estate of the original owner. And of course, you look at this car, which is a very imposing and elegant British car. And you can see the sweep of the fenders here and the curve of the roof. You see those great teardrop coupes in a lot of this design. It still has every piece in its original toolkit, the original owner's manual, the original service manual, the receipt from the dealer when it was purchased, and all the receipts from service from new. But one of the things is that I bought it at an auction in Florida and brought it up here to the Northeast. The paint, which is a single layer of paint, doesn't like the temperature changes from humid to dry, warm to cold. And so this original paint began to flake away. So then I was left with a choice. What do I do? Do I preserve the pure originality of the car, or do I preserve the car for future generations to come? So at this point, the car is going to be resprayed, and it'll be resprayed in the original dove gray colors that Jaguar intended it to have, and be a car that I can enjoy without fear of the car being deteriorated further through my lack of attention. People often ask me, what car can I buy that will be worth twice as much money in 5 or 10 years? The answer I give is always the same. If you buy a car that you love, that raises your pulse, that excites you, it doesn't matter if the next day someone's only willing to pay you half of what you paid, because the car is the same. It still excites you. And that's just one of the reasons why I love collector cars. Thanks so much for joining us here in this glimpse at a small selection of the cars from the Audrain collections and my own personal collection. Perhaps our friends at the Petersen will come back and see the rest of the cars that we keep here at the Audrain collections in the other 3 facilities that we have. Let's hope we see you then. Thanks.
Get show car quality results with Sonax Wheel Cleaner Plus. 20% stronger. The powerful non-acid color changing action removes grit, grime, and film without damaging your wheels. For more information and promos, visit SonaxUSA.com.
Hello, I'm Stephen Wynn, owner of Delorean Motor Company. Would you like to come and take a look around with me? Okay, so we'll do a quick walkthrough. Obviously you can see we've got all sheet metal and parts around us, some chassis of DeLoreans over here. This here is, to my right, is actually a body drilling jig which we'll utilize when we go back into production. It was a tool from the original factory that came from Dunmurry in Northern Ireland, which we'll be absolutely putting back to use. It is the end of the day here, so all the cars that we normally would have in the lot outside are all inside, and we can just take a quick walk through the shop here and you can see what we have going on. Okay, we're going into the service department right now. We generally have anywhere between 30 and 50 cars on site at any given time. Most of them are all customer owned cars here for service, restoration, general repairs. As you can see, we've got a pretty shop full right now of cars here. This is our shipping and receiving department. This is the shipping area. We generally ship anywhere from 20 to 40 packages a day, and they could be going to our dealers, to owners all around the world. We try to ship our stuff as quick as possible. These last 12 months with the pandemic, it's been challenging times, but again, it seems to be working out okay. Just to give you an idea, this building here is 40,000 square feet, 200 by 200. We have just shy of 4 million DeLorean parts in the facility, lots and lots of NOS original parts, as well as reproductions that we reproduce as the years go by. When we bought all the remaining inventory many years ago, we got all the technical spec and drawings, which really helps us a lot. Although it's old school, all the drawings that we have are all flat drawings. Nobody deals in drawings anymore, so we have to get our drawings and have them converted over to CAD a lot of times. But but it's okay. It's better than having nothing, I can tell you that for sure. You look at these bins here, and these bins actually came from the factory in Dunmurry. And if you ever see any pictures of the factory, and you'll see the bins that were on the shop floor, these are those bins, and probably what's in them now is what was in them 40 years ago, say, when they were in the factory, and it's still the same inventory. So lots of deep DeLorean history in this building, just from the bins, even the racking here. You know, I don't know if you can come in here and look at this, and if you can see this label here, but it says DeLorean. They were manufactured in Rhyl, which is in northern Wales, and there's a date code on them. I think these are dated, as I recall, from June of 1981. So as we're in the main body of the warehouse here, there are about 2,850 parts that go to make a DeLorean. We have about 80% of those parts already in this facility. One of the biggest single items and single item of value is a DeLorean door, the gull wing doors. We actually have 1,000 doors in the building, and if you look down this aisle here, that's 200 feet of DeLorean doors, and that's a third of the doors that we have here, which when we go back into production, they will be immensely valuable to us, because they would probably be the most expensive piece to reproduce. So having them on hand is going to be real helpful on the financial side for us for when we start. And as we transition into this side of the facility here, again, it's more deep storage. When we go into production of the DeLoreans and we start doing the assembly, this whole area will be cleared out, and then this will be our assembly hall that we'll use, where we'll actually set up 3 assembly lines, where there'll be a body assembly line, a chassis assembly line. The body and chassis will be mated, and then there'll be a final fit for the stainless panels, somewhat mimicking what they did originally in Belfast, but obviously on a much smaller scale. But it's going to be real fun and exciting once we get to do that. We've been chomping at the bit for many years to get started, and it's getting closer. As we walk around here, you'll see these are more of the DeLoreans that we have in storage that are waiting for their time to come. They're either cars that we haven't looked at yet, or they're in the queue waiting to be inspected, and then we'll do the presentation to the customers, and then we'll go ahead and start restoring them.
When the factory closed in late '82, everything that was left in the factory, all the parts that had yet to be assembled into cars, were shipped up from the factory in Ireland here to the States. So virtually everything you see in here came out of that factory in Northern Ireland back in the day. Lots of the stuff is still in the same containers from June of '81. Now, there's about 1,000 doors here left. This is about a third of them. About 1,000 doors mixed left and right. Here on the other side of the building, we've got 2 more rows of doors, just like the one we saw over there. Crash repair pieces of the cars up high. All these wire bins full of interior trim pieces, AC lines, door panels, sunshades, wiring harnesses. I may have said wiring harnesses already, but a lot of this stuff, this is something that is a real kind of piece of history. All these boxes here went to the DeLorean factory in Northern Ireland from their supplier in West Germany, back when there was a West Germany. Of course, now there's only Germany, not East and West. But those are some of the neat things that are in here that came out of the factory, that have been in these boxes virtually untouched, for the last very nearly 40 years now. On the racks here in front of us, shock absorbers and basically steering columns, everything you need to pretty much build a DeLorean again are all things that we have here in this building. And this is what's left after 40 years of this being the primary source for DeLorean parts. So you can imagine what must have been here, what must have been available at least back in 1982 when all this stuff came here to the States. Something in the DeLorean community that we call cave paintings, or when the guys at the factory used to write things inside the doors as they were putting the cars together. This one in particular happens to be the last right-hand door to be made at DMC, and it was made by the people who signed it. B. Atkinson, Brian Boyle, Phil Goff, Hugh Barrett, R.J. Cowden, Kay Ferris, and someone apparently known as Boatman. And they wrote "The End of a Dream, or Is It?" These were people that very likely did not have a job before they came to work at DeLorean in their entire life. Some people at the factory, they were the first person in 2 or 3 generations to actually have a job. That's how bad unemployment was in Northern Ireland back in 1979, 1980, 81. So these are people that came off the street, learned how to build these cars, and and then within a year or so had it all taken away from them. And that's why the end of a dream, or is it? Because they still hoped that for all the investment that had put into having the factory built and building all these cars, that somebody would come in and take it over again and they could go back to work.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching this video. We really enjoy it when people come by and see us. It's always fun to show around what we have, and most people find it quite unbelievable that we have such a large inventory for a car that went out of production so long ago.
Shine and protect your car in 5 minutes with Sonax Spray and Seal. Wash and rinse your vehicle, then while still wet, spray the sealant on the car. Rinse immediately and towel dry. It's that easy. Details at sonaxusa.com.
Well, there aren't that many cars that had the legacy that the DeLorean did. John Zachary DeLorean was working for General Motors, who worked his way up to become the youngest division general manager at the age of 40. Eventually said, you know what, I'm done with you guys, I'm done with this corporate culture, and ultimately said, what I want to do is build a car that is really the antithesis of everything General Motors was doing, or really not just General Motors, but the American automotive industry in general. I'm going to build a car that's eco-friendly, safe to drive, conserves fuel resources, and it's going to be a hit. Everybody's going to want one. And I'm going to call it the DeLorean, because that's kind of a cool name, and it's my name, and people know me, and they would connect the car to me. He got Giorgetto Giugiaro of Ital Design to pen this incredibly sexy body for the car, and he gave it gull-wing doors. Well, it was more a styling affection than a necessity for the DeLorean DMC 12. It really wasn't a 12. I think it was kind of interesting that he would call it that. It had a Peugeot, Renault, Volvo-derived V6 engine. Now today, a DeLorean is unusual. And I don't think very many people would know what a DeLorean was if it wasn't for the Back to the Future franchise.
In the original first 2 drafts of Back to the Future, the time machine was a time chamber built out of an old refrigerator, which Doc had to transport around on the back of a pickup truck. Well, finally, in the summer of 1984, we got the movie into pre-production. And now Bob Zemeckis has his director's hat on, and he's thinking about, how am I going to shoot this, and how am I going to shoot that? And one morning he comes in the office and he says, hey Bob, I got an idea. What if Doc Brown built the time machine into a car so it would be mobile? And that way we wouldn't have to load it on the back of a pickup truck and unload it. So that's a lot of logistics that we're going to have to be doing. I said, that's a damn good idea. And then he said, what if the car was a DeLorean? Well, why a DeLorean? Because John DeLorean was on trial during the summer of 1984. And we saw John DeLorean on TV news every night. Of course, he was acquitted. It was all set up. But nevertheless, the car company was in the news. It now had this extra level of notoriety. And look, the DeLorean is one of the coolest cars ever in the history of automobiles. But the gull-wing doors were just a fabulous, fabulous element that pushed us over the edge to say, yeah, we got to do a DeLorean.
We generally have anywhere between 30 and 50 cars on site at any given time. Most of them are all customer-owned cars here for service, restoration. People often ask me, how do you transition from being a car mechanic to owning a car company? It just happened organically. It wasn't really a master plan or anything like that. Started working on DeLoreans. People were running away from them. Nobody wanted to touch them. Was able to buy all of the remaining inventory of parts for the DeLorean. And then it was like, okay, what are we going to do with this? And started looking and was able to pick up all of the intellectual property. Then obviously the next thing to do was look at all this inventory that I've got and think about remaking the car. We're often asked, whose engine are you going to use? And it was only an engine 5-6 years ago. Now, with the electric cars becoming more and more popular, whether it's a hybrid, whether it's electric, we haven't really decided yet. As the time goes by, more and more doors are opening up as far as battery packs, drivetrains, collaborations with various manufacturers. In regards, again, to the new car, people ask, what's it going to look like? Well, it's a replica. It's going to look like the original car. I do not want to mess with that shape. That silhouette is iconic for the car. The stainless skin is iconic for this car. The gull wing doors, I just want to improve the mechanical aspect of the car, and then all of the issues that we've dealt with the original car, try and address as many of those issues as possible and make it that we have a much better package for the new car. I personally would like it to be electric, but it has to be a good and safe car, as well as have a good performance and good drivability. And that's going to be a challenge. It's not like we're designing a car from the ground up. We're going to be dealing with the existing infrastructure of the car. All things being equal, we'll be able to package it correctly, and then we shall see what we come up with. Hi, my name is Stephen Wynn. I'm the CEO of Delorean Motor Company for close to 38 years. People often ask me, how do you transition from being a car mechanic to owning a car company? It just happened organically. It wasn't really a master plan or anything like that. Started working on DeLoreans, was able to buy all of the remaining inventory of parts for the DeLorean. And then it was like, okay, what are we going to do with this? And started looking and was able to pick up all of the intellectual property. The next thing to do was look at all this inventory that I've got and think about remaking the car. Being a mechanic, but then having to travel the world, sourcing parts, getting the parts made, inspecting the parts, going through the reproduction process, makes it that no 2 days are alike, and that's a real fun thing for us, myself and all of my staff here actually, because we're always doing different things all day, every day. What I think I'm going to do when I walk in of a morning, probably by about the first hour, the list has changed and we're off on a different tangent. So that keeps it real fun and exciting. So I'm often asked, what do my family and friends think of what I've achieved and what I've done and owning Delorean? Well, really, it sort of, because it evolved and it never started off as a master plan. Initially, I think all my family thought I was crazy and that there was going to be no future in Delorean. And then as the years have evolved and people get to understand of what my vision is, nowadays people think that it's a really good idea. But I think for the first 10 years, people were looking at me thinking, what's this crazy guy doing? Where's he going with all of this? Is there a future? And, and even working on DeLoreans like I have been doing all my life, I'm often people say to me, can you make a living working on DeLoreans? And yes, you can make a living working on DeLoreans. You know, if you look in my shop right now, I've probably got about 40 cars in the shop to be serviced, restored, and it's always been that way. I'm often asked, in my opinion, what is the most unique feature of the DeLorean? And for me, it's the whole package. You know, the design of the car, which is phenomenal, and it's stood the test of time like you cannot believe. Obviously the construction of stainless steel, the gull wing doors, very daring, very different, never been really repeated. And then the whole DeLorean story of how it came, how they did it. You know, in the day, I would say John DeLorean was the Elon Musk, you know, with what he was doing and what he did. You know, the team that he put together when he started, you know, he wanted to do things differently, so he attracted the best of the best, and that's what was the team that created the original car, and we try to follow with that level of excellence. The new DeLorean, we were very excited 5-6 years ago when the low volume law came into being, and we thought that within 12 months we'd be producing cars. We went public with the plan. We had tremendous response. We probably have a waiting list of 4,000 people wanting to know about the DeLoreans, and the law says we can only make up to 325 a year. And probably will, you know, our plan is that we make 100 or so a year. That fits this building and the way I want to do it. So I think the demand will be there for quite some time, you know, for the new car, and we still get lots of people calling, asking, and we still don't have the green light yet. We're still waiting for the final green light to actually go into production with the replica cars, but we're hoping that it'll happen this year. Then we can at that point we can decide what is the final specification going to be. We're often asked, you know, whose engine are you going to use? And it was only an engine 5-6 years ago. Now with the electric cars becoming more and more popular, you know, whether it's a hybrid, whether it's electric, we haven't really decided yet. You know, as the time goes by, more and more doors are opening up as far as battery packs, drivetrains, collaborations with various manufacturers. So I personally would like it to be electric, but it has to be a good and safe car, as well as have a good performance and good drivability. And that's going to be a challenge, you know, with the packaging. You know, it's not like we're designing a car from the ground up. We're going to be dealing with the existing infrastructure of the car, and all things being equal, we'll be able to package it correctly, and then we shall see what we come up with. In regards, again, to the new car, people ask, you know, what's it going to look like? Well, it's a replica. It's going to look like the original car. You know, I do not want to mess with that shape. You know, that silhouette is iconic for the car. The stainless skin is iconic for this car. The gull wing doors, you know, I just want to improve the mechanical aspect of the car, and then all of the issues that we've dealt with the original car, try and address as many of those issues as possible, and make it that we have a much better package for the new car. From time to time I'm asked, what do I drive? Well, obviously I drive a DeLorean, but I love cars, so I've owned and driven everything. Most recently, I actually had a C8 Corvette, which I bought to try. Obviously, I've never owned a Corvette before, and I thought now as they put the engine in the middle, it's something to try, and I had it for about 6 months, and it was really nice. It's a great car. Like all modern cars today, all cars are great, so that was a fun one to have experienced. Obviously with the Corvette C8 being mid-engine, it's a more neutral handling, where the DeLorean, with it being rear-engined, tends to oversteer a bit more. Obviously, having driven DeLoreans now for 38 years, I've been in every situation that you can be driving them, so I'm extremely comfortable. And also, the power is completely different to the Corvette. I could probably do some damage in the Corvette. I've managed to bring every DeLorean home, but maybe not so with the Corvette if I really got aggressive with it.
I'm James Espy. I'm the Vice President here at DeLorean Motor Company. I've been here about 22 years. I was 16 when the car first came out, and I knew at that time I wanted to have something to do with DeLorean Motor Company. Didn't realize it would be this DeLorean Motor Company, but I'm not complaining. I tell people, you know, I get to come to work every day. I don't have to go to work every day. I bought my first DeLorean in 1995. That was the year Stephen acquired all of this inventory here and renamed his company as DeLorean Motor Company. And about that time I was pretty active on the internet, such as it was back then, and I had created a forum for DeLorean owners and enthusiasts, and got to be fairly well known in the internet DeLorean community, such as it was back in the mid-90s. And then in '97, I was at a DeLorean event at the old DeLorean factory in Northern Ireland, and I bumped into Stephen. And you know, I had first actually met Stephen in 1985 at my first DeLorean show, but then didn't end up meeting him again until '97 at this DeLorean show. And we were sharing a rental car together, and I was picking his brain about all these parts that he had just acquired. And he picking my brain about the internet, and he said, I've got all these parts, I need an online store so I can sell them. Is that something you can help with? And I said, sure, absolutely. And so I did the first online store for DeLorean Motor Company back in '97. It was probably the first automobile manufacturing site to have all the parts listed that anybody could buy before the, you know, nowadays it's fairly common, of course, but it was a fun project to work on, and one thing led to another, and I ended up starting here permanently in the summer of '99. In 2012, I published a book called The Illustrated Buyer's Guide to DeLorean Automobiles. And after having been here by that time for 12, 13 years, I saw so much, you know, both there's a lot of disinformation, a lot of bad information, and I saw a lot of people overpaying for DeLoreans that really weren't worth what people thought they were. Like if you want to buy a Camaro or a Mustang or a Corvette, and regardless of where you live, you probably can throw a rock in any direction and hit 5 or 6 of them. If you're after a DeLorean, you might have to drive a couple hundred miles, 1,000 miles perhaps, to find one that's for sale. And I always tell people, you know, that you really need to look at it. Don't buy the first DeLorean you see without some reference points of other DeLoreans. You don't know what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, what's something to run to, and something that you should be running away from. So that was the whole point of the book, and it's you know, it's to teach people basically what I've learned over the last, well, now 20 years here buying and selling DeLoreans, knowing what's a good deal and what's not. So that's, and it's been translated into Japanese. It's in its 8th printing now, just about to launch the 3rd edition. It's been very well received. The best thing about working at DeLorean for me is to be around all the history. We've got a lot of the original factory files that go into, it gives you like a behind the curtain look at what was going on at the company back in the day. And you know, even if Stephen didn't want me anymore, I'd probably hang around just for the history of it. You know, I'd come here for free, but don't tell him I said that. The neatest thing for me about DeLoreans is the story. I mean, here you've got a guy who, you know, thumbed his nose at General Motors to start his own car company. He married a supermodel half his age, you know, got the car into production, you know, built and sold about 9,000 cars, ran into financial trouble based on, depending on whose story you believe, either it was the British government or it was the US government, and so it's just a great story, really. Stephen and I were talking earlier about the cars that are at the Petersen Museum now.
Yeah, and they've got the gold car, the one with the black interior, that was in the bank in Snyder, Texas for all those years, which is a beautiful, gorgeous car.
A guy had bought it new, a guy who owned the bank, because he thought it would be a good investment, and he had all the fluids drained of it, and he installed it in a glass case in the lobby of the bank so everybody could see it. And it was just after he passed away, I guess, gosh, what's it probably been, maybe 15 years ago or so now?
Well, I was just thinking about that. I remember we drove out from Houston with a group of DeLorean owners, and I was going to say 10 years ago, but we've been in this building 20 years ago, so it must have been 25 or 30 years ago that we drove out and went there to check it out with the DeLorean owners. So that was a fun trip. Yeah, and then also at the Petersen Museum, they've got the Back to the Future car from the original A car. It is, right? Yeah. And that was restored by a bunch of enthusiasts, including Danny, our service manager from our shop in Huntington Beach.
We were just watching this documentary a few nights ago about it, and it shows all the crew that was working on it, and it just really came out amazing.
Oh yeah, it looks good. I haven't seen that show yet. I'll have to watch it.
And you know, we were, it's interesting to see how nice a DeLorean can be, whether it's a time machine or any other car. We have a customer here. He bought his DeLorean new back in 1981, 82, and it's his only car. He drives it every day. He's got to be knocking on 200,000 miles or so on it, right?
200,000 miles.
And he's 92, 93,
yeah,
I think now.
He's in his 90s, and again, drives the heck out of the car. And the interesting thing about the car is it's actually being willed to the Smithsonian, and they will end up with it, and we are going to be doing the restoration on it, and then the car will eventually be presented to them. So that's another cool project that we get to do, and we get to babysit it along the way, which is fun.
Yeah, it's nice to do stuff like that.
And obviously I'd like to give a huge shout out to the Petersen Museum folks for coming out here and taking the time to set this up and putting this whole program together. It's a great idea. What do you think?
I agree. You know, part of the history of the DeLorean is talking to people that are living the history, making the history. And so once, you know, a lot of the original DeLorean Motor Company employees have unfortunately passed away. So you've got to talk to these people while you can.
And getting this on video and getting it documented this way, I think, is really important for the brand going forward. So again, thanks a lot to the Petersen.
Hello everybody, this is Richie from Pagani Beverly Hills, here to present to you the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC, one of 40 units for the entire world. Base price is around $3.5 million, and we have this one for you today. So if you're wondering off the bat, the 20 on the side over here stands for the 20th anniversary of the Zonda. That's right, 20 years already that the Zonda has been produced. And with the Huayra right here, first introduced in 2011, and it being 2021, it's been 10 years now, a decade, that the Pagani Huayra has been in production. This is the last one right here, the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC. BC standing for Benny Caiola, which was a great friend and first customer of Horacio Pagani. And What the BC essentially stands for the Huayras is the more track-focused performance model of the already insane Pagani Huayra. First introduced in 2011, the Pagani Huayra has gone through several iterations already. The first iteration being the Coupe, going to the Coupe BC, the Roadster, and then now behind me, the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC. With this car, it features different aerodynamics, increasing the downforce. For example, at 174 miles per hour, it develops about 1,100 pounds of downforce, which is absolutely insane. And to help that, we have a new front splitter that's only specific to the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC. We have a different vents on the fender here compared to the BC and the Imola before this one. And as we go towards the rear of the car, we have a roof scoop and a rear wing. The roof scoop is optional. You could option the car without it, but in my opinion, the roof scoop looks so much more incredible. And then with the roof off here, you can actually hear the air coming into the car, which sounds absolutely phenomenal. So Patrick and I are actually going to take off the roof so that you can see the interior of the car and see the car in its actually true essence with the roof off, which is what we intended with this car, the Roadster BC. So to take off the roof, we first want to open the rear clamshell, just because so that it doesn't hit the roof scoop right here. And then to release the top, there's two latches on the bottom that we can show you once we take it off, that you press and unlatch, and then taking off the top here. The roof of the car is incredibly light. We do recommend having a partner with you to take it off. And here's the two latches on the top where you see the two red buttons to take it off. You would just press down on the button, release the latch, and remove the top. And the same thing just in reverse order for putting the top back onto the car. But now we get to see the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC in its true essence without the roof on, which is absolutely incredible. In the interior of the Pagani Huayra, the first thing that you'll notice is this gear shift knob right here, which is absolutely beautiful. This gear shift knob is actually inspired by a Porsche Carrera GT. Horacio Pagani, he's an incredible car enthusiast, and he takes inspirations from what he loves and truly combines it into his own creation. So you'll see little things inspired by different things in his life that have incredible meaning. For example, for the infotainment system right here, these buttons are actually inspired by a clarinet. And then the vents make you feel like you're in an aircraft. And it's the same thing when you're hearing all the turbo sound, the turbo noises, and all the swooshes that this car makes. It's an incredible experience, not like any other car out there. It really truly makes you feel like you're in an airplane on the road, which is absolutely unheard of in any automobile. Other features that this car has that the other Pagani Huayras don't have, it actually has an active exhaust button here in the center console, has a damper button. It actually has a new engine start-stop button, which is a lot easier to use than the previous one. Just like other Pagani Huayras out there, this car has different modes that you can drive in. It has an IC road mode, comfort, sport, race, and then ESC off. And each thing creates a whole entirely new experience when driving this car. It changes the characteristic, how it shifts, how the power comes on. On the steering wheel as well, you have your right indicator and your left indicator. You have the ability to switch from automatic to manual mode if you want to go through the gears yourself. You have your right paddle, left paddle, and if you press both of them at the same time, the car actually goes into neutral. You can do the same thing with the gear shift knob if you switch it to the left. On the left-hand side, Manettino, you have day running lights on, and then your different other modes to turn on and off the lights. The seats in this Pagani Huayra Roadster BC are slightly different from the regular coupe and the regular Roadster. These are the sport bucket seats, and then behind it, it features, just like other Pagani Huayras out there, features a 7-piece custom luggage set, which has 2 garment bags for your coat or your dress or whatever you want to put in there. Here, take it out there. This thing is absolutely beautiful. Alcantara, gray Alcantara on the top, and then beautiful Italian leather at the bottom. And then back here, we have a small bag on each side as well. What's incredible about the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC, as much as it is a hypercar and hypercars not really being well known for storage compartment space, the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC has actually a fair amount. Here on the door, you have some space right here. You have side pockets on either side. You also have actually 3 center cubbies to put your stuff in, and then to adjust the steering wheel and the height of the cluster. There's a lever right here that you would push down, and then you can adjust the steering wheel however you see fit. And then to lock it in place, just raise it up again into your perfect driving position. Last but not least, in the interior, you do have a launch button right here at the top, as well as 2 light switches. In the rear of the car here, we have the new Pagani V12 biturbo producing 791 horsepower and 774 foot-pounds of torque. Just as a reference, in the Pagani Huayra Roadster, which this is derived from, this being the BC, that car produced 764 horsepower and 737 foot-pounds of torque, which is incredible that they were able to produce that much more horsepower from essentially the same engine, even though it was redesigned and everything by AMG. Also here in the back, instead of 4 exhaust ports, we have 6 now. And then the transmission, it's an X-Track 7-speed rather than the 6-speed in the Pagani Huayra Roadster. Here on the side of the car, under the clamshell, we have 2 storage compartments on each side, which is enclosed with a beautiful leather strap. And right here, it has a beautiful leather bag on each side that can carry all kinds of goodies for you. So with the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC, and you can get this with any other Pagani as well now, there is a roof scoop at the top, and here under the clamshell, you can see how the air actually feeds into the side intakes, right, into the side vents right here. What's incredible is that when you have the roof off in this car, you actually hear the roof scoop sucking in air, which adds to the entire experience, making you really feel like you're in an aircraft. On behalf of Pagani Beverly Hills and the Petersen Automotive Museum, thank you again for joining us today in seeing the Pagani Huayra Roadster BC. Again, one of 40 units for the entire world, roughly $3.5 million for this. And as a treat, we'd like to start up the car and give you some sound bits. Enjoy.